Chief Andrew had seen many shocking things in his life. He had stood in rooms where presidents and kings shook his hand. But nothing, prepared him for what he saw that hot afternoon in the quiet village. He stood frozen in front of his black SUV, dust still rising around the tires. His two security guards stood on both sides of him, hands folded, eyes scanning the compound. And there, in front of a small, tired bungalow with peeling walls, he saw her. On a faded mat, on the dry ground, sat a weak, thin young woman in a tattered ash t-shirt and dirty jeans stained with mud. Her hair was rough and scattered around her face. Her lips were dry. Her eyes looked tired, almost empty. An old woman, dark-skinned with grey, messy hair and a tattered blue Ankara wrapper, sat on a wooden stool beside her. The old woman held a plate of jollof rice with fish in one hand and a spoon in the other. She gently lifted the spoon to the young woman's mouth, like a mother feeding a sick child. Chief Andrew's heart stopped. Because the girl on the mat, the girl with the weak eyes, the girl who looked like life had beaten her down and left her there, was his daughter. Juliana? His voice cracked. The name felt heavy in his throat, like it had been trapped there for days. His only child, his 24-year-old daughter, the same daughter who had been missing for one whole week. For 7 nights he had not slept. For 7 mornings he had woken up with hope and gone to bed with fear. The police had searched. His private security team had searched. Posters with Juliana's face were all over Lagos. But now, here she was. In a dusty village compound, on an old mat, being fed by a stranger. "Sir, is that?" one of the guards whispered. Andrew did not answer. His feet started moving before his mind could catch up. He rushed forward, the sun burning his skin, his shoes kicking sand as he ran. He reached the mat and dropped to his knees so fast the guards gasped. "Juliana," he whispered again, his hands shaking as he reached for her. The girl's eyes moved slowly, her lashes trembled. For a second it seemed like she was still lost in some deep, dark place. Then she focused on him. Her lips parted. "D?" Her voice was so soft, it was almost a breath. That one word broke something inside him. Tears filled Chief Andrew's eyes at once. This was not the strong, confident billionaire the world knew. This was just a father who feared he had lost his child forever. "Yes, it's me. It's Daddy. I'm here." His voice shook as he pulled her into his arms. Juliana struggled, but she tried to lift her hands and wrap them around him. Her body felt so light, too light. She was weak, far too weak. Andrew hugged her tighter, his tears falling into her hair. "I thought I lost you," he cried. I thought I would never see you again." The old woman on the stool stared in surprise. Her wrinkled hands froze around the spoon. "You are her father?" she asked slowly, her eyes wide. Andrew turned to her, still holding Juliana. "Yes," he said, his voice thick. "She is my daughter, my only child." The old woman's lips parted. She looked at Juliana, then at Andrew again. A long sigh left her chest. She lowered the plate slowly onto her lap. For a moment nobody spoke. The guards stood back, shocked. A dog barked somewhere far away. A small boy ran past the open, rusty gate, stopped, stared, and then kept running. The sun beat down on the broken walls and the dusty ground like the whole world was watching. Finally, the old woman nodded. "My name is Olivia," she said quietly. "People here call me Mama Olivia." She swallowed. "I am a widow. I live alone in this compound." Andrew wiped his face with his hand, trying to breathe. "How did she get here?" he asked, his voice sharp with fear and confusion. "How did my daughter end up in this place? We have been looking for her everywhere, for 1 week, 1 full week." He could hear his own anger, but it was not for the woman. It was for himself, for the kidnappers, for the world. For everyone who had not helped, for everyone who had walked past those posters like they meant nothing. Mama Olivia looked down at her worn slippers. Then she looked up again, her eyes shining with tears. "I found her," she said. Andrew frowned. "You found her?" Mama Olivia nodded. "I was coming back from the village market," she began. "That dusty road outside. the one that leads to the main junction. I saw her there. Her fingers gripped the edge of her wrapper. She was lying on the ground, almost lifeless, she continued. People were walking past her. Some looked, some shook their heads, but nobody stopped. Her voice shook. They said maybe she was mad. Maybe she was drunk. Maybe she was cursed. Andrew's jaw tightened. He could picture it in his mind. His brilliant daughter, the same girl who used to sit in the boardroom of his billion-dollar tech company, now lying in the dust like trash, while people stepped around her. Juliana made a small sound and clung to his shirt. I couldn't leave her there, Mama Olivia said. I am old. I am not strong. But I knelt down and touched her. She was breathing, but very weak. Her clothes were dirty. Her face was bruised. I tried to ask her what happened, but she could not speak well. Her voice broke. So I did the only thing I could do. I begged 2 young boys on the road to help me. We carried her here, to my house. She looked around at the peeling walls, almost ashamed. I washed her face. I shared my food with her. I have been feeding her small since that day. Andrew stared at her. This poor widow, who clearly had almost nothing, had carried his daughter home, had fed her, had stayed by her side, but he felt something else too, a heavy fear, like a cold hand squeezing his heart. If this woman had not stopped, if she had walked past like the others, Juliana might have died there. Alone. He swallowed hard. How many days? He asked quietly. How long has she been with you? Mama Olivia looked at him, then at Juliana, then back at him again. Today makes it 1 week, she said. 1 week. The exact number of days she had been missing. Andrew felt dizzy. The world seemed to tilt. All those nights he had sat in his Lagos mansion, blaming himself, begging God, throwing money at search teams. All that time his daughter had been lying on a dusty village road. Then inside a poor widow's leaking bungalow, eating from her small plate of jollof rice. His guards shifted uncomfortably. One of them wiped his eyes when he thought nobody was looking. Andrew looked at Mama Olivia again, really looking this time. He saw the lines on her face, the tired eyes, the way her hands shook a little, the way her clothes looked old and washed too many times. A woman like this had every right to walk past and mind her business. But she did not. Something inside him cracked even more. How did you know to bring me here? He whispered, his voice softer. Mama Olivia gave a small, sad smile. When you came to the village this morning, she said, people ran to tell me that a big man from the city was going around asking about a missing young woman. They said you were crying. They said you were showing her picture. She nodded toward Juliana. I saw the picture. My heart almost stopped. She took a deep breath. So, I told them to bring you here. Andrew's throat felt tight. He looked at Juliana's pale face, then at the old woman who had carried her, fed her, and stayed with her when the world turned its back. His voice shook as he spoke again. Madam Olivia, he whispered, calling her the full name without even thinking. Please, tell me everything. From the first moment you saw my daughter, tell me what really happened on that road. Mama Olivia looked at him. Her eyes darkened, as if she was remembering something painful. Her fingers tightened around the plate. The warm village air suddenly felt heavy. She opened her mouth to speak, and what she was about to reveal was something Chief Andrew never, ever expected to hear. The compound suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like the air itself was afraid of what Mama Olivia was about to say. Chief Andrew wiped his face again, holding Juliana carefully. Her breathing was slow, shaky, fragile. The guards stood alert, their hands near their holsters, their eyes sharp like eagles. Mama Olivia held the plate of rice on her lap. Her fingers trembled as if they were remembering something too heavy for her small hands to carry. I didn't want to say anything before now, she whispered. But since you are her father, you should know what I saw, and what I heard. Andrew's heart thudded. The guards straightened. The sun seemed to pause in the sky. Please, he said quietly, tell me everything. Mama Olivia nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. I didn't just find your daughter lying on the road, she said. I saw what happened before she landed there. Andrew's breath caught in his chest. "You saw it?" he asked, voice sharp with shock. She nodded. "I was coming from the village market, walking slowly because of my old legs. The sun was hot that day, even the birds were hiding." She sniffed. "Then I heard a car." Andrew leaned in. "What kind of car?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mama Olivia shook her head. "I don't know the name, but it was big. Powerful. One of those cars we only see in election time, when politicians visit." The guards exchanged quick glances. Andrew's jaw clenched. "What happened next?" he asked. Mama Olivia swallowed hard. The car stopped suddenly in the middle of the dusty road. Then two men came out. One was tall, very tall. The other was shorter, but he had broad shoulders. She breathed in shakily. They went to the back seat and dragged someone out. Juliana whimpered softly. Andrew held her tighter. "Dragged," he repeated, voice trembling with anger. "Yes," Mama Olivia whispered, "dragged. Like they were dragging a sack, not a human being." Her voice broke. They dropped her hard on the ground. My heart jumped. I hid behind the mango tree beside the road. I didn't want them to see me. Andrew's breathing became shallow. His guard's fists tightened. "What else did you hear?" Andrew asked. The widow's face darkened. One of them asked, "Are you sure she won't wake up?" The other answered, "She better not. If she remembers anything, we are finished." Andrew's blood froze. "What?" he whispered. Mama Olivia nodded sadly. "They kicked dust on her. Dust. As if she was not somebody's child." She wiped her face roughly. "Then they said, 'Let's go before anyone comes. Dumping her in the village is enough. No one will know who she is.'" Andrew felt like the ground had fallen from under him. Dumping her? In a village? Like trash? His daughter, one of the brightest software engineers in his billion-dollar tech company, thrown away like she was worthless. Juliana whispered something weakly. Andrew bent closer. "They took my bag. They took everything. The files. The device." She breathed. Andrew felt his stomach twist. He knew exactly what she was talking about. Her encrypted drive, her project documents, her device prototype. The one only she and two other trusted engineers had access to. Someone had targeted her. This was not random. This was not a mistake. This was planned. Very planned. Andrew swallowed hard. "Mama Olivia, did you see their faces?" he asked. She shook her head. "They covered their heads with caps. They kept looking around. I didn't want them to see me. If they did, maybe I too would be lying on that road." The guard stepped closer protectively. "And after they left?" Andrew asked. "That was when I came out," she said. "When I touched her, she was cold. I thought she was dead." Her voice cracked again. "But then a small breath came out. Very small. So I shouted for help." She looked down. Only two young boys came. Just two. Everyone else ran away. They were afraid. Andrew felt a deep ache move through him. A father's ache mixed with anger, fear, and a pain he didn't know how to describe. "Mama Olivia," he said softly, "why didn't you call for help? Why didn't you take her to a hospital?" The old widow looked embarrassed. "I don't have a phone," she whispered. "The small clinic down the street was closed, and even if it was open, I didn't have the money they would ask for." She looked up at him, eyes full of sadness. "So I carried her home, and did the only thing I could do. I cleaned her face. I gave her small food. I prayed for her every night." Andrew covered his face with his hand. This poor widow with nothing had done what schools, police officers, strangers, neighbors, and even Lagos citizens didn't do. She cared. If she had not stopped, if she had not risked bringing Juliana home, if she had not fed her, Juliana would not be alive right now. Andrew's eyes filled again. "You saved her life," he whispered. But Mama Olivia shook her head. "I only did what a mother should do," she said softly, "even though I lost my own child years ago. When I saw her lying there, something in me woke up, something I thought I had buried." Andrew's chest tightened. "You lost a child?" he asked gently. Mama Olivia nodded slowly. "A long time ago," she said. "Since then, I have been alone in this old house. Juliana lifted her weak fingers to touch the widow's hand, her voice trembling. "Thank you. Mama." The word mama made the widow gasp. Her hand flew to her chest. Andrew felt tears roll down his face again, but before he could say another word, a loud, sharp knock blasted at the compound gate. Everyone jumped. The guards drew their weapons at once. Mama Olivia froze like a statue. Juliana clung to her father's shirt. Another knock, harder and stronger. Someone was outside. Someone who wasn't afraid. Someone who wanted to enter. Andrew exchanged a tense look with his guards. Then a deep male voice called from outside. "Open this gate. We know she's inside." The guards snapped into defensive position. Andrew stood up, gripping Juliana protectively. Mama Olivia's face drained of all color. And then, she whispered the words that made Andrew's heart stop. "That is the same voice I heard on the dusty road." The banging on the rusty gate did not stop. If anything, it became louder, harder, like a warning that something terrible was about to enter the compound. Chief Andrew held Juliana close, his heartbeat racing like a drum inside his chest. His guards moved fast, stepping in front of him, hands on their guns, eyes locked on the shaking gate. Madame Olivia grabbed her stool and held it to her chest like it was a shield. Fear washed over her wrinkled face, real fear. The banging came again, then the same deep voice thundered through the air. "Open this gate, now." No one moved. The sun felt hotter, dust floated in the still air. Andrew's guard, Cunley, whispered, "Sir, this sounds dangerous. Let us handle it." But Andrew shook his head. "No," he said firmly, voice trembling with emotion. "Whoever is out there, they came here looking for my daughter. I need to know why." Juliana whimpered softly in his arms. "No. Daddy." "No," she whispered, her voice weak and scared. He looked down at her face, pale, shaking, terrified. Seeing her like this made something sharp twist inside him. He kissed her forehead gently. "I won't let anyone hurt you again," he whispered. "Never." Madame Olivia stepped closer, placing a shaky hand on Andrew's arm. "That voice," she whispered, swallowing hard. "I remember that voice. It is the voice of the tall one, the one who dropped her by the road." Andrew's chest tightened. The kidnappers were back. But why? To finish what they started, to silence Juliana for good, to retrieve something they stole from her. The gate shook again, this time so hard that the metal sounded like it might tear off. Then silence, a silence that felt even scarier. The three adults looked at one another, even the guards seemed unsure. Then footsteps, slow, heavy, moving outside the gate like someone was walking along the wall. The shorter guard, Musa, took a nervous breath. "They're checking the fence," he whispered. Andrew's fingers tightened around his daughter. And then the voice came again, this time softer but more dangerous. "If you don't open this gate, we will." The gate latch shook violently. Juliana gasped. "Daddy." "They came back for me," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheek. They said if I survived, everything would be destroyed." Andrew froze. "Destroyed," he repeated. She nodded slowly, eyes full of fear and memory. "They weren't just after me," she said weakly. "They were after the project, the files, the new security algorithm." She coughed. "They wanted to sell it. They said I knew too much." Kunle turned his head sharply toward her. "Sir, that algorithm is worth billions," he said. "Countries will fight for it. Companies will pay anything for it." Andrew closed his eyes. So that was it. His daughter wasn't just kidnapped. She was targeted. By people who knew exactly who she was, exactly what she was working on, exactly how valuable her mind was. And now they were here, in this small village, trying to get inside. Suddenly, there was a crash. A stone smashed against the metal gate, making everyone jump. "Open it," the voice barked. "We know she's there." The guards stepped forward, guns raised. "Sir, move back," Musa ordered. Andrew held Juliana close and pulled Madame Olivia behind him. The widow was trembling. "This is my fault," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "I should not have told the villagers you were looking for her." Andrew shook his head sharply. "No, you saved her life. Don't blame yourself." But they followed your car, she cried. They must have seen you enter my compound. Andrew's stomach dropped. It was true. He had driven straight to her house after villagers told him a woman had found a young girl. His SUV was big, shiny, loud. It drew attention. Too much attention. My God, he whispered. They tracked me here. Another violent hit slammed the gate. This time the gate bent slightly inward. Juliana screamed. The guards raised their guns instantly, pointing them at the gate. Sir, Kunle shouted, not taking his eyes off the gate. We cannot stay here. If they break in, we'll be trapped. There is no back exit. We must move. Madame Olivia held her wrapper tightly. What do we do? What do we do? She cried. Andrew looked around desperately. There had to be a way out, any way out. But this compound was too small, the fence was too high, the house too old to hide inside. If the men came in, they would get to Juliana. And he couldn't let that happen. Not again. He looked at his guards. Buy us time. I'll carry Juliana to the car. Musa nodded. We'll hold them off, sir. Kunle stepped toward the gate, gun aimed. If they force their way in, we shoot. Madame Olivia gasped. No, blood inside my compound. Please. This is the only way, Andrew said urgently. Suddenly, a shadow appeared at the top of the gate. Someone was climbing. Kunle fired a warning shot into the air. The shadow dropped back behind the wall, shouting angrily. Andrew Cole, the voice yelled. You think you can hide her from us? Bring her out now. Andrew froze. They knew his name. They were not random criminals. This was not a simple kidnapping. This was personal. He took a slow breath, his mind racing. He had only 2 guards, no police nearby, no backup. A sick daughter, a terrified widow, and dangerous men outside the gate calling his name. He needed to think fast. Kunle, Musa, he whispered urgently, on my signal, run with me to the car, shield us. They nodded. He lifted Juliana into his arms, her weak breath against his neck. Madame Olivia held his shirt. Please, she whispered, voice cracking, don't leave me behind. Andrew looked at her. This woman had saved his child, fed her, protected her, loved her like her own. Madame Olivia, he said softly, you're coming with us. Her eyes widened with shock and relief, but before they could take a single step, the gate latch snapped. The metal bent forward, slowly. Slowly. The gate began to swing open. Everyone froze. The guards raised their weapons. Andrew pulled Juliana close. Madame Olivia covered her mouth. And stepping into the compound was not who they expected. The rusty gate creaked open slowly, like it was scared of whoever was pushing it. Chief Andrew held his breath. Kunle and Musa aimed their guns straight ahead. Madame Olivia gripped Andrew's sleeve so tightly her fingers began to shake. Juliana clung to her father's shirt, her weak body trembling. Everyone expected a dangerous kidnapper, a masked man, or one of the voices from the dusty road. But then, a young man stepped inside the compound. Tall, dusty, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear. He was not wearing a mask. He was not holding a weapon. He didn't look bold or dangerous. He looked terrified. He raised his hands in the air. Please, please don't shoot, he shouted. Kunle yelled, Stop right there. Who are you? The young man stopped immediately. His chest rose and fell quickly, as if he had been running for a long time. My name is Adigun, he cried. Please, I'm not with those men. Musa frowned. Which men? Adigun pointed behind him with shaky fingers. The ones outside, they are looking for the girl. I ran here to warn you. Andrew felt a knot form in his stomach. So the kidnappers were still outside, waiting, watching. Adigun continued quickly, tripping over his own words. I heard them in the bush path. They came with 2 bikes and 1 tinted SUV. They were asking people if anyone saw a man in a big car carrying a weak girl. They were describing her. He pointed at Juliana. Juliana gasped and pushed her face into her father's chest. Adigun swallowed hard. When I recognized the girl from the missing posters in town, I came here to tell you. Andrew stared at him. His guards stared too. No one expected this. A stranger running into danger, just to warn them. But this was not the moment to trust blindly. Andrew asked sharply, How many men did you see? Adigan lifted 3 shaky fingers. 3. The tall one, the short one, and another one on the phone. I think he is the leader. The mention of a leader made Andrew feel sick. Did they see you come here? Kunle asked. Adigan shook his head. No, sir. I came through the back footpath behind Mama Olivia's house. Everyone turned to Madame Olivia. Her face went pale. You know that path? Andrew asked. She nodded slowly. Yes, it leads to the stream, and then it passes behind the old palm trees. People use it to avoid the main road. Kunle whispered, That means they can enter from the back too. Musa's eyes widened. We're surrounded. Andrew felt his heartbeat pounding against his ribs. They were trapped. He held Juliana's face gently. It's okay, he whispered. I'll protect you. But inside, he felt fear climbing his throat like a rope tightening. Adigan stepped forward carefully, keeping his hands up. Sir, he said, voice shaking, they are planning something. I heard them talking before I ran. Everyone fell silent. The wind blew lightly. The trees rustled. A chicken clucked somewhere behind the house. Andrew whispered, What? Were they planning? Adigan swallowed hard. They said they must get the girl back before sunset. They said if she wakes up fully and remembers their faces, everything is finished. Juliana whimpered. Andrew felt a burning fire in his chest, anger mixing with fear. How long do we have until sunset? He asked. Musa glanced at the sky. Maybe 2 hours, sir. 2 hours, before the men outside would try something big, before they tried to break in. Before they tried to get to Juliana, Andrew turned to his guards. Is the car safe? Kunle nodded. We parked it close, but if they block the gate, escape will be difficult. Andrew thought fast. He had 2 guards, one stranger boy who seemed honest, an old widow, and a weak daughter who could barely stand on her own. This was a terrible position. Then Adigan took a shaky breath. I know another way out, he whispered. Everyone stared at him. Kunle asked, Where? Adigan pointed toward the back of the compound. There is an old path behind the mango tree. It goes through a narrow space between the fence and the next compound. It leads to the back street. You can get to your car from there if you drive around. Kunle's eyes widened. That might work. But Musa shook his head. What if the men are watching that side too? Adigan shook his head quickly. They're not. They think you're still inside waiting for them to break the gate. Madame Olivia whispered, It's true. No one uses that back path except children playing hide-and-seek. Andrew hesitated, trusting a stranger while kidnappers surrounded them. Terrible idea, but staying here. Even worse. Before he could speak, Juliana's weak hand reached out and touched his cheek. Daddy, she whispered, please, let's go. Her voice was faint but desperate. That settled it. He nodded once, strong, resolute. Kunle, Musa, get ready, we use Adigan's path. The guards nodded instantly. Madame Olivia looked scared, very scared. What about my house? She whispered, tears filling her eyes. Will they burn it? Will they break in because of me? Andrew touched her arm gently. I promise you, no harm will come to you. You are coming with us. Her mouth fell open. Me, she whispered. Yes, Andrew said, you saved my child. You are family now. Madame Olivia covered her mouth and cried softly, but before they could move, a shout exploded from outside. They're trying to escape through the back. Go, go. Everyone froze. Adigan's face drained of color. How did they know? He whispered. Footsteps thundered outside the walls, fast, many, coming from both sides. Kunle raised his gun. Musa cocked his rifle. Andrew held Juliana tightly. The kidnappers had figured it out. They were no longer waiting. They were coming. From the front, from the back, from the sides. The entire compound shook with pounding footsteps, and as the sun began to sink behind the trees, Andrew realized something terrifying. They were trapped with seconds left. Then, a loud crash erupted behind the bungalow. A new voice shouted, There she is! Grab the girl! Juliana screamed. Madame Olivia dropped her stool. Kunle fired a warning shot. Musa shoved Andrew backward. Adigan yelled, Run! And the kidnappers finally burst into the compound from the back fence. The back fence broke open with a loud crack. Dust exploded into the air, wood splintered everywhere. And then, 3 men jumped inside the compound, the tall one, the short one, and the one with the cold glare who looked like the leader. Juliana screamed weakly. Madame Olivia fell backward onto the sand. Adigan froze like a trapped animal. Kunle fired a warning shot, but the men didn't stop. They kept moving, spreading out, hands low, eyes sharp, like wolves surrounding weak prey. Chief Andrew felt his heart explode inside his chest. They had come back for his daughter. They were here to finish what they started. The leader pointed at Juliana. "There," he barked, "grab her before she wakes fully." "No," Andrew roared, pulling Juliana tighter against him. Kunle raised his gun at the leader. Musa aimed at the tall man. "Take one more step," Musa warned, "and you won't leave here alive." The leader smirked, not scared, not even a little. "Let's see who shoots first," he said calmly. Then he snapped his fingers. The tall man charged forward like a bull. Kunle fired again. The bullet hit the ground near the man's foot, missing by inches because the tall man dodged fast, too fast. The man rushed at Kunle and tackled him to the ground. They wrestled hard, rolling in the dust, fighting for control of the gun. The short man lunged at Musa. Musa blocked him with his arm and elbowed him in the face. The short man stumbled but didn't fall. They fought violently near the wall, fists flying everywhere. The leader did not move. He stood still, like he was waiting for the right moment. Andrew held Juliana tightly, heart pounding. "Daddy," she whispered weakly, "don't let them. Take me." "I won't," he whispered back, voice cracking. Madame Olivia crawled toward them on her knees, pulling them behind the broken stool for cover, but the leader's eyes followed every movement. Then, he smiled. A cold, evil smile. "Mr. Andrew Cole," he said softly, "do you really think 2 guards can stop us? You should know better." Andrew froze. He knew his name. He knew Juliana's identity. He knew exactly who they were targeting. This was not random. "Why are you doing this?" Andrew shouted. "Why my daughter? What did she ever do to you?" The leader tilted his head. "Oh, she didn't do anything wrong," he said. "She just solved a problem we didn't want solved." Juliana's eyes widened. "My algorithm," she whispered. The leader laughed lightly. "Smart girl," he said. "Too smart, too fast, too dangerous for us." Andrew felt sick. "So you kidnapped her," he shouted. "You hurt her. You dumped her on the road like trash." The leader shrugged casually. "It wasn't personal. Business needs silence sometimes." Andrew clenched his teeth in pure rage. The leader nodded at the tall man, still wrestling with Kunle. "Finish it," he shouted. The tall man punched Kunle in the stomach, making him groan. Kunle struggled but couldn't stand. Musa fought the short man with everything he had, but he was getting tired too. Adigan shook where he stood, unsure whether to fight or run. Madame Olivia pressed her back against Andrew's, whispering prayers under her breath. The leader stepped forward. "One last time," he said, his voice calm but deadly. "Give us the girl, or everyone here dies." Andrew tightened his arms around his daughter. "You'll have to kill me first," he said. The leader nodded slowly. "As you wish." He reached into his jacket. Everyone shouted at once, "No! Watch out! Stop!" But before the leader could pull anything out, a second gunshot split the air, louder, closer, strong. The leader staggered to the side, shocked. Dust flew up around his feet. He wasn't hit, but he was shaken. Everyone turned toward the direction of the shot, and that was when they saw 5 uniformed officers running into the compound, guns raised, shields up, and a police truck screeching behind them. The kidnappers froze. Musa gasped. Kunle's eyes widened in disbelief. Andrew couldn't breathe. Juliana whispered, "Daddy, who called them?" And then, a tall police officer stepped forward from behind the other officers. Officer Obi, the police chief of the region, he pointed straight at Andrew. "Sir," he called. "We got your emergency alert." Andrew's mouth dropped open. "I didn't send any alert," he shouted back. Officer Obi pointed at someone behind him. Andrew turned and saw Adigan standing there, breathing hard, holding a small old phone. "I sent it," Adigan said, wiping sweat from his forehead. When I saw the men in the bush, I used my cousin's phone to alert the police. I didn't know if they would come, but I tried. Andrew stared at him. This young stranger, poor, dusty, trembling, had saved all of them. The leader of the kidnappers cursed under his breath. "Move!" he yelled at his men. "Retreat!" But they were too slow. The police officers surrounded them instantly. Guns pointed, shields locked. No escape. "Drop your weapons," Obi shouted. The tall man tried to run. 3 officers tackled him to the ground. The short man raised his hands and fell to his knees. The leader stood still, face twisting in anger. "This is not over," he hissed at Andrew. "You have no idea who you're fighting." Officer Obi stepped forward and punched him hard across the jaw. The leader fell to the ground. Handcuffs clicked. Weapons were seized. The compound was filled with uniforms. Juliana burst into tears, weak but safe. Andrew held her tight, crying into her hair. Madame Olivia covered her face with both hands, thanking God over and over again. Kunle and Musa stood up shakily, both bruised but alive. Andrew turned to Adigun. The young man looked embarrassed. I just didn't want them to hurt her," he said quietly. Andrew walked toward him. Adigun froze, then Andrew pulled him into a tight hug. "Thank you," he whispered, voice breaking. "You saved my daughter's life." Adigun's eyes filled with tears instantly. Officer Obi approached them. "Sir," he said, "we'll take these men to the station. You and your family should leave now. It's safe." Andrew nodded. Kunle and Musa carried Juliana gently into the SUV. Madame Olivia followed, wiping tears from her cheeks. Adigun stepped back, unsure if he belonged with them. Andrew turned and held out his hand. "Come with us," he said. "You're part of this family now." Adigun's jaw dropped. "Me?" he stuttered. "Sir, I'm just—" "You're a hero," Andrew said. "Heroes don't stay behind." Slowly, Adigun nodded and followed them. The SUV door closed. The engine rumbled to life. Andrew looked back one last time at the old compound, the dusty walls, the broken stool, the place where everything changed. Then he whispered, "Let's go home." The car drove away, toward safety, toward healing, toward a new beginning. For Juliana, for Madame Olivia, for Adigun, and for Chief Andrew, who had nearly lost everything, but gained a family he never expected. The sun was rising slowly over Lagos when Chief Andrew Cole finally realized something. He had not only found his daughter, he had found a new mother, a miracle he never expected. After the chaos at the village, after the kidnappers were taken away, after Juliana was rushed to the hospital and treated, Chief Andrew refused to leave Madame Olivia's side. When the doctors took Juliana in, Madame Olivia held Andrew's shaking hands like she had known him forever. "It is well," she whispered softly. "You will not lose your child. Not again." Those words healed something deep inside him. Juliana woke up the next morning, safe, strong, smiling weakly. She held Madame Olivia's hand and refused to let go. Chief Andrew watched them, and he knew what he needed to do. When they returned from the hospital, Andrew stopped the car in front of the broken bungalow. The walls were cracked, the roof had holes, the windows were old and shaky, and he said only 3 words. "Pack your things." Mama Olivia blinked. I don't understand." Andrew turned to her, tears filling his eyes. "You carried my child when nobody else stopped. You fed her, you saved her, you stayed awake while the world walked past." He took her hands gently. "You are her grandmother now. You are my mother now. And I will not let you live here one more day." Mama Olivia covered her mouth with both hands as tears streamed down her face. "No one has ever said such words to me," she whispered. Juliana hugged her from the back. "It's not a request," Juliana said softly. "You're coming home with us." And that was how it began. When they arrived at the mansion, every worker froze. A poor widow, in a billionaire's mansion, walking beside the owner with her head high. Andrew didn't hide it. "This is Mama Olivia," he announced. "She is the mother of this house. Treat her like a queen." From that day, everything changed. She was given a beautiful room with gold curtains and soft pillows. So soft she cried the first night because she had never slept on something so gentle. New clothes filled her wardrobe, doctors checked her health, chefs cooked her meals, drivers opened doors for her. The mansion began to feel warmer, softer, brighter because of her. She walked with wisdom, she spoke with gentleness, she corrected with love. Soon the cooks called her Mama. The cleaners ran to hug her. Andrew sat with her every morning for tea, and Juliana never slept without kissing her goodnight. The house finally had a heart. Juliana recovered fully and returned to her father's tech company. Engineers clapped when she entered the building. Her father cried quietly when she sat at her office desk again. She worked harder, smarter, stronger. Everyone respected her. But there was something else she gained: courage. She was no longer afraid of the night. She no longer trembled when she remembered the road. She stood tall, like the fighter she had become, and Mama Olivia was always there in the evenings, waiting at home with warm food and warm hugs. Life continued. Seasons came and went. And one bright afternoon after 2 years, Juliana walked into the mansion holding someone's hand. His name was Nelson, a kind, gentle young man who ran a community tech hub helping children learn coding. Mama Olivia liked him immediately. "Your eyes are pure," she told him. "You look at her with respect. I see it." Juliana laughed shyly. Andrew studied Nelson for weeks, quietly, carefully. But the more he watched, the more he saw that Nelson loved Juliana with his whole heart. So the day Nelson asked for permission to marry her, Andrew didn't hesitate. He nodded, wiping his eyes. Yes, make her happy. The wedding day came like a dream. Rows of beautiful flowers lined the long walkway. Golden chairs shimmered in the sunlight. Guests whispered in surprise when they saw the special moment no one expected. Juliana stood at the end of the aisle, holding Mama Olivia's hand. Not Andrew's, Mama Olivia's. The woman who saved her, the woman who fed her, the woman who became family. Mama Olivia walked slowly, proudly, tears shining in her eyes. "You made me a mother again," she whispered to Juliana. Juliana squeezed her hand gently. "You made me live." As they reached the front, Andrew stood waiting. He tried to smile, but the tears came too fast. The same daughter he nearly lost forever now looked radiant, whole, glowing. And right beside her was the woman who kept his world alive. When the pastor asked, "Who gives this bride?" Mama Olivia lifted her chin proudly. "I do." "With joy," she said. Andrew wiped his eyes again, unable to stop his tears. Everyone cried. Even Nelson cried. It was the wedding of the century, not because it was expensive, but because it was full of love, healing, and second chances. After the wedding, guests gathered around Mama Olivia, bowing and greeting her like a mother of the community. Children ran to hug her, workers knelt to greet her, guests smiled warmly at her, and Andrew whispered to himself, "She saved one life and healed an entire family." Juliana and Nelson started their new journey. Andrew continued running his empire with wisdom and gratitude. And Mama Olivia? She lived in the mansion as a true queen, loved, honored, respected, and never lonely again. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.